Today's experience was sent to us by a sister. She died and went to heaven. She saw the secret behind fasting many are not aware. Kindly stay to the end to fully understand her experience. My name is Philem Fried. I felt led to send you this, brother. It was the 9th day of my water-only fast. I had felt an unshakable pull in my heart, one I believed came directly from the Holy Spirit, to commit to this journey. Fasting wasn't new to me. Each day of the fast was filled with prayer and worship, and though my body was weak, my spirit felt more alive than ever. That morning, August 2023, I was driving to our weekly women's Bible study group. It was early, 6:15 a.m., and the streets of Portland were quiet, wrapped in a thick fog that seemed to spill from the Columbia River. Worship music played softly on the radio, and as I drove along Burnside Street, I prayed. I felt unusually close to God, as if His presence was in the car with me. But then, in an instant, everything changed. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw a large delivery truck skidding out of control on the slick pavement. I barely had time to react before it crossed into my lane and slammed into the passenger side of my car. The force of the impact was devastating. Later, I learned from the medical reports that I had suffered severe internal injuries, multiple organ failures, and, most frightening of all, my heart had stopped beating for 15 minutes and 47 seconds. At the time, though, I was unaware of my body's condition. All I knew was that one moment I was inside the car, and the next, I was somewhere else entirely. The transition was immediate. One moment, I was trapped in the crumpled remains of my car. The next, I was floating above the accident scene. It was surreal. I could see everything so clearly. The paramedics working frantically on my body, the flashing red and blue lights of the emergency vehicles, and even the delivery truck driver, who stood off to the side with his hands on his head, visibly shaken. It wasn't just what I saw. It was how I saw it. I noticed every detail, as if my senses had been heightened. Yet, I felt no pain, no fear, only an overwhelming sense of peace. Then, something extraordinary happened. The scene below began to fade, and I felt a gentle yet powerful pull, drawing me upward. It was like I was being carried through a tunnel made entirely of light. This light wasn't harsh or blinding. It was alive. It radiated love and peace in ways I couldn't describe. As I moved through the tunnel, I realized I wasn't in my physical body anymore. Yet, I felt more real and alive than I ever had before. My senses were sharper, my thoughts clearer. It was as though I had stepped into a truer version of myself. As I moved through the tunnel, I felt completely enveloped by a light that seemed alive. It wasn't just light. It was love, peace, and joy, all woven together in a way that reached into every part of me. The tunnel stretched endlessly ahead, and yet it felt as if I was moving at an incredible speed. The walls of the tunnel weren't solid. They shimmered and pulsed like they were made of liquid light. The closer I got to the source of the light, the more I felt every burden, fear, and pain lifting away from me. It wasn't just that they were being removed. It was as if they had never existed. I felt pure, whole, and completely free. I didn't feel alone either. Though I couldn't see anyone, I sensed a presence beside me, comforting and guiding me. It was as if God Himself was walking me through this journey, though I never heard a single word. Suddenly, the tunnel opened up, and I found myself in a vast, radiant space. I knew instantly this was no ordinary place. This was the edge of heaven, the outer courts. The beauty around me was beyond anything words could capture. The air felt alive, charged with holiness and joy. The ground beneath me shines like gold, but it wasn't hard like metal. It was soft, almost like walking on clouds, yet firm enough to support me. All around, I saw colors that don't exist on earth. Vivid, brilliant hues that seemed to sing with life. I could hear the faint sound of music, but it wasn't music in the way we know it. It was more like the very fabric of heaven was singing. The sound wrapped around me, lifting me higher, filling me with awe. In the distance, I saw gates, massive and gleaming with light. Though I didn't approach them, I knew they led deeper into heaven. I wasn't ready to enter, but just standing there filled me with an indescribable longing to draw closer to God. As I stood there, I began to notice golden threads weaving their way through the air. They shimmered with a divine glow, connecting everything around me. I felt drawn to them, and as I reached out, I realized what they were. They were prayers. My prayers, the prayers of others, and even the prayers I had prayed during my fast. Each thread carried a weight and significance that I had never understood before. Fasting and prayer weren't just spiritual disciplines. They were threads that reached directly into heaven, binding me closer to God. I could see moments from the fast, the hunger, the weakness, the tears, and how each sacrifice had been a thread woven into this heavenly tapestry. Every prayer, no matter how small, shimmered with power. I realized that fasting had cleared the path, allowing my spirit to connect to heaven in a way that transcended anything I had known before. As I stood in that holy place, a presence filled the air, undeniable and overwhelming. It was Jesus. Though I couldn't see his face clearly, his voice was like a melody of truth, penetrating to the depths of my soul. He began to speak about fasting, and each word felt like a key unlocking mysteries I had never understood. I saw an image of people fasting and praying, and with every sacrifice, the blanket grew thinner and thinner until it was transparent. Streams of light poured through the openings, carrying blessings, answers, and healing. Fasting, Jesus explained, is a way of partnering with heaven to bring the realities of God's kingdom to earth. Then Jesus showed me moments in history where fasting had moved the hand of God. I saw Esther, fasting with her people, trembling but resolute. Through their sacrifice, God saved an entire nation. I saw Elijah, weary and alone, fasting in the wilderness. His fast prepared him to hear the still, small voice of God and gave him strength to carry on. I saw Jesus himself, fasting in the desert for 40 days. Even I, he said, humbled myself through fasting to prepare for the mission ahead. In fasting, I overcame the temptations of the enemy and walked in the power of the Spirit. Each scene revealed that fasting was not just an act of personal devotion, but a divine tool that God used to change the course of history. As Jesus continued to speak, he turned his focus to the heart behind fasting. His tone was gentle yet firm, and his words carried undeniable clarity. There is a difference, he began, between fasting out of sincere devotion and fasting out of obligation. One reaches the heart of God. The other is empty tradition. Jesus revealed to me that fasting strengthens a believer's spiritual armor in ways beyond human understanding. He showed me a vision of a soldier clad in armor that gleamed with light. Each piece, the helmet, breastplate, shield, and sword, shone brighter and became more impenetrable as the soldier fasted and prayed. He explained that fasting does not create the armor but enhances its effectiveness. The shield of faith became larger, able to withstand greater assaults. The sword of the Spirit grew sharper, cutting through lies and deceptions with precision. Even the sandals of peace allowed for swift and steady movements in the face of spiritual battles. Jesus revealed that fasting aligns the believer's spirit with God's will, reinforcing their defenses against spiritual attacks. The enhanced armor enables them to stand firm, even in the fiercest battles, with a strength that flows directly from him. In another vision, Jesus showed me an archer aiming an arrow at a distant target. As the archer fasted, their aim became more precise, and the arrow struck the bullseye with unerring accuracy. He revealed to me that fasting sharpens our prayers in a similar way, aligning them with God's purposes. Prayers offered during fasting are guided by the Holy Spirit, carrying a power and precision that pierces through spiritual barriers. Jesus explained that fasting removes distractions, allowing believers to hear his voice more clearly and pray in alignment with his will. He showed me how these prayers dismantle strongholds, break chains, and bring healing and restoration. Fasting, he revealed, is like adding fuel to the fire of prayer, intensifying its impact and effectiveness in the spiritual realm. Jesus revealed to me that worship offered during fasting carries a special fragrance in the spiritual realm. He described it as a unique aroma, distinct from ordinary acts of worship. In a vision, I saw this fragrance rising like golden smoke, weaving its way into the heavens and reaching the throne of God. He explained that fasting amplifies worship because it aligns the body, soul, and spirit in a singular focus on Him. By denying the flesh, the heart becomes more attuned to His presence, and worship flows from a place of deep surrender. Jesus told me that this fragrance is precious to Him because it signifies a sacrifice, an offering of love, devotion, and trust. Jesus revealed to me that fasting can act as a shield against challenges yet to come. In a vision, He showed me a timeline of life, and certain points on it were marked with storms, symbolizing trials, temptations, or hardships. He explained that preemptive fasting strengthens the spirit ahead of these moments, allowing believers to stand firm when they arrive. He said, "When you fast now, you store up spiritual strength for what lies ahead." This fasting is like preparing a reservoir that you can draw from during dry and difficult times. Jesus likened it to sharpening a sword before battle. The preparation ensures readiness when the fight begins. In another vision, I saw individuals fasting, and their spirits began to shine with a brilliant light. As future challenges approached, they stood unshaken, their light repelling the darkness that sought to overwhelm them. Jesus explained that the spiritual strength gained through fasting enables clarity, courage, and endurance during trials. There is a call rising in the hearts of believers everywhere, a call to return to the foundational practices that have the power to bring revival and restore spiritual authority. Fasting is one of those practices. I've seen it with my own eyes, how a people who humble themselves before God, through fasting and prayer, can experience an outpouring of His Spirit that revives hearts and transforms communities. In that realm of living light, during my encounter, I was shown a vision of a great spiritual awakening sweeping across the world. It was not a revival built on great numbers or elaborate gatherings, but a revival that began in the quiet, intimate places of the heart, where people fasted and prayed with sincerity. I saw how fasting brings a greater depth of connection to God's heart, and in that connection, spiritual authority is restored. Jesus revealed to me that fasting is a key to unlock the full measure of the authority given to His people. Just as He was led by the Spirit into the wilderness to fast and pray, and in doing so, overcame the temptations of the enemy, so too do we receive strength and authority in our own spiritual battles through fasting. It is through fasting that we are able to discern God's voice more clearly, to resist the schemes of the enemy, and to rise with the power of the Holy Spirit within us. He showed me how fasting has the power to break the chains of sin, remove strongholds, and release the fullness of His Spirit into our lives. When we humble ourselves before Him through fasting, we align our hearts with His will, and revival begins, not just in our hearts, but in our communities, our cities, and even our nations. Jesus revealed to me that many in the church today have forgotten the power of fasting or relegated it to a mere tradition without understanding its significance. It's easy to become distracted by the comforts of modern life, but the call to fast is a call to return to our first love, to seek God's face earnestly, and to humble ourselves before Him. I saw a picture of the early church in my vision, when the apostles and disciples gathered in fasting and prayer, seeking God's guidance and power. The early believers knew the importance of fasting and understood that it was through fasting that they could grow in spiritual authority. They didn't rely on their own strength, but on the strength that came from God alone, and fasting was a means to tap into that strength. Instantly I came back to myself and I found myself in the hospital. All right, friends. This brings us to the end of today's experience. Kindly like and share this video with your friends and families. Kindly subscribe to our channel and turn on your notification bell icon to be the first to get updated anytime we upload a new experience sent to us. Remain blessed.